Hey everyone, Tony D with a hot take. And this one's about Antifa and the mass transit system in New York. A couple of days ago, this video emerged on, I guess it was on Twitter, where an Antifa group said, "Oh, we're gonna protest the trains. We're gonna protest the trains because they should be free." Now, I'm not totally in the loop of New York politics. I believe Philly has a more privatized system, so I immediately assumed, oh well, the rates must be like out of control in New York, and must be because they privatized it. Because a lot of privatized public rail systems tend to they tend to get out of control after a while in terms of the pricing because they're not very profitable. Well, as it turns out, they are still a public entity in New York. Uh, and so I'm not exactly sure the guys in Antifa or whoever's leading this protest really thought things through. Because they essentially want the public transport system to be free, and they see that as a human right. It's not a human right. You have no more human right to a free train system than you do to a free car. It's just not a human right. There needs to be people maintaining the equipment of the mass transit system in New York and the subways, and there needs to be guys sweeping them up, and there needs to be security. I'm old enough to remember the 70s and 80s when the subway system in New York City was like the Wild West. It was like the Wild West. It was covered in graffiti. There was rampant crime all over the subway. People got killed and stabbed and raped. Not every day, but it was a huge problem. People were afraid to take the subway. People didn't take it. You only took the subway if you were poor and desperate. And everybody else, get on the subway in the nighttime? Are you insane? That was the attitude of the New York subway at that time. Eventually, they cleaned it up. They created a security force to go in there and ride the trains, or at least some of the trains. And for the most part, the graffiti is gone. The vandalism was gone, and it's relatively secure. Now, they kind of went the other way. There was a little too much security, in my view. During 9/11, they were like searching people and monitoring people. It was a little too much, in my view. But the point is, it's not cheap to run a subway. I would prefer a private entity run it. There used to be a private entity. But it's so bizarre to see a group of hardcore leftists protest something that's already owned by the public, and they vandalized it. They poured glue into the little swipey machines, and they spray painted things. And they apparently don't want the cops in the subway. Listen up, college students who can't defend themselves with their weak little arms. You will beg for cops to patrol the subway system because it was bad. It was bad when they didn't. Literally, gangs would, there was a gang problem in the 70s. Gangs would run the subways. It was kind of like the Warriors, only they would stab you and take your money. What are you going to do? What are you going to do if you're trapped on a train? It's barreling to the next stop or whatever, and a group of like 4 kids trap you on a car and say, "Give us all your money. Give us your clothes. Give us everything you have." You're screwed. You are very much screwed. Okay, there might be videotape, but do you really care about that when all your stuff will be gone and maybe you'll be stabbed and left bleeding naked in the middle of the streetcar? The Joker, one of the reasons the Joker movie captured New York City in that era so well was that scene on the subway. That was kind of like a Bernard Getz scene, except, the guys harassing Joker were not gang members. They weren't poor urban kids who, decided to rob somebody. They were, jerks from Wall Street, but jerks from Wall Street never rode the subway in that era. That would have been the a minor criticism I would have had of Joker. It should have been the teenage kids that tried to beat him up as a clown on the street. This was an issue back then. So it was funny, and there's all sorts of footage. Andy No covered it. Tim Pool covered this on a video, and Andy No, who's covered Antifa on a lot of things, had a video clip. I think it was posted on Twitter. One of the Antifa guys is being arrested, and he's telling the cops, "Oh, my dad works for the court system." This is the level of idiocy that runs through Antifa. Anybody can be an Antifa, put on a hood and make a video and tell people to be somewhere, and idiots will show, as long as it's sort of aligned with your weird lefty hardcore beliefs. And these kids think that they're going to show up, vandalize a bunch of things, and go home and somehow change the world. I don't really think deep down they think they're going to change everything. I think they just want credit for being cool. And it's a way to identify with a group, and they could go, "Oh yeah, I went to the protest last night and I spray painted cops are pigs on the side of the wall." I mean, it doesn't really accomplish anything. They're not going to make the subway free after you did that. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine if they did, what would happen? Oh wow, they made the subway free. Okay, let's see if we can make supermarkets free. Let's smash up some supermarkets. I mean, they're not going to make the subway free because you did that. They will specifically not make it free because you bashed up the subway. And they are not going to get rid of the cops. No one wants the cops gone from the train. Yeah, they get kind of pushy, and I think they should be restrained, legally. But that's that's something for you have to get politicians who respect liberty. You can't get these politicians who are like trying to dictate your behavior every 10 seconds. And these hardcore leftists like AOC, I mean, she's not going to respect liberties. She's just only going to respect certain people's liberties. She's only going to react to things. She's not actually going to, in my view, have any principles about anything. And in fact, she's part of the problem in New York because she drove out that big Amazon deal. That tax revenue would have added, more taxes to the system that would have paid for the damn train. So you have nobody to blame but yourself on this, people on the left side of politics. Antifa continues to be the biggest bunch of idiots. I mean, they just continue to be an embarrassment to protesting. The Antifa members can't get anything right. They don't understand. You don't make any friends when you show up and smash the place up and beat people up and scream fascist at everyone. They don't even know who they're screaming at. So the guy from We Are Change, I think his name is Luke, he went down to cover the protest, and they called him a fascist. And he's clearly not. He is clearly not. And Tim Pool covered this too. He's more libertarian than anything else, and he's certainly doesn't have he's certainly not establishment. The establishment didn't cover you, Antifa, because what is there to cover? They don't care. That wasn't an issue that if you had done something against Trump, then they would have been there. So if you want coverage, you're barking up the wrong tree in terms of asking for free fare. They don't support you in that. And then they had a giant sign that said, abolish prisons, cops, borders. I mean, they want anarchy, essentially. Good luck with that. I mean, if you want anarchy, you're going to have to destroy all the institutions, and you will probably die or be jailed in the attempt. Especially, the United States is not teetering on the brink of anarchy. It's not even close. We have billions and billions of dollars. We have guns and, law enforcement to beat the man. So, You ain't gonna do nothing, Antifa. And your little tantrums. And again, it's like all kids. Where are the workers that you supposedly represent? Where are the poor people that you supposedly represent? With the money you probably spent on your telephone, your cell phones, buying a latte while you were down at the protest, your little noise makers, and your scarf and your little black hoodie. With all the money you blew on that kind of stuff, you could have just paid for some poor people's fares if you really were concerned about poor people not getting on the subway. You could have maybe started a group that would raise money to pay for the fares of poor people who can't afford the subway anymore. And let's be honest, $2.75, that's not a huge price for a subway. I mean, I pay more on the train here. It's more than $2.75. I mean, that's not a bad price. In New York City, I mean, it's expensive to live in New York. In fact, they should just make it $3 and get rid of all the change. And it is probably going to go to $3. I mean, I remember when as far back as it's been under $1, but prices go up in the current economy that we have. If you want cheaper prices, what you need is competition. You need a competing service, and the only way you can get that is by having a private train service or a private transportation that competes with one another, and that would drive down the price. So that's what you need. So learn economics, Antifa dummies, and please stop doing protests where you hit people and vandalize things. This is a terrible strategy. It's not working, and no one likes you.